It's time for the Brouhaha Sports Show. Brouhaha Sports with award-winning sports writer Dale McKee and co-host Marshall Wood. Talking sports with the legends of the game and famous sports personalities. Brouhaha. Now to Marshall and Dale with tonight's guest.
Good evening, everyone. It's Brouhaha time. Marshall Wood, Dale McKee, and Kelly the Brouhaha Kitty bringing another table discussion or whatever, something cute. I can say I'm out of words, Dale. How are you doing?
You're what?
I'm out of words.
Marshall Wood.
I'm speechless.
Marshall Wood?
Yeah. I'm not going to tell you why. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's a
Good.
big old world out there. A lot of stuff going on, Dale.
In the sports world or just
In the world.
in the world?
I mean,
Are we winning the war?
I sure hope so, but anyway. How's the world of sports treating you?
Let's see. Well, we're getting ready for March Madness.
Yeah.
Excited about that.
Yeah, it is March.
Yes,
That's right.
it is. So I think they're going to start that tournament 2 weeks from today.
Who do you like? Who you think is the top, say, couple, 2 or 3 teams that could have a chance of winning this thing?
Ooh, let me see. I don't really. Everybody's so even right now.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, but you know, your top breeds are going to be there. You know,
Yeah.
It's somewhere. Let's discuss that in the second half.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll go to work on that.
Because that might be a little lengthy.
Okay. You think that? So the first half's over with, or I got? Is there? You got anything we can discuss?
Well, college baseball, we got for the first time in I think in state of Mississippi history tonight down in Hattiesburg. USM number 10 in the nation will play Mississippi State number 4.
That's a big one.
That's the first time 2 Mississippi teams been in the top 10 that played each other.
Wow.
And that seems kind of odd because Ole Miss and State's always been pretty good too. But
You gonna be over there?
I'm gonna watch it on TV.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they got this thing called ESPN Plus.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive over there. You
Yeah.
don't have to look for a parking place. You don't have to pay for one.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay $10 for popcorn.
Get the soft in your old age.
Yeah. 20 years for a Coke and $30 for an ice cream cone.
Ain't that something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I'll watch it on
Yeah.
probably the TV because if I feel like going to sleep, I will. But I probably won't.
Southern looks pretty good. I mean, just looking at them on the hoof, man.
Well, listen, they do a great job pitching wise. Coach Ostrander, he was a pitcher up at Delta State under Boo Ferris and those guys. Well, no, I don't think he was under Boo Ferris. He was under the guy that followed Boo Ferris, and I can't remember his name. He was from Meridian, but I mean, he's done a great job with pitching now as a head coach.
Yeah.
But he got to 100 wins faster than Hill Denson or Scott Berry or Corky Palmer or Hill Denson.
Man, that's a great coaching tree, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, and it just gets better and better.
Yeah. Well, he actually beat Pete Taylor's record. I think Coach Taylor did it in 163 games, got to 100, and Coach Oz got there in 137.
Man,
That's fast.
that's good.
But now they got some great pitching, and I'm going to tell you what, they beat a great team this last weekend.
Oh, man.
Well, they beat two pretty good teams. They beat Alabama last Tuesday, and then they swept Louisiana Tech, and Louisiana Tech was 8-1 going into the weekend
Yeah,
series.
the Wayne County player over at Louisiana Tech.
Yeah,
looked good.
and Luke got to pitch a couple innings. I think they used him in relief maybe the second day. I think it was. Coach Burrows, who coaches there, used to coach at Southern, used to coach at Mississippi State. He's from Meridian, played at Meridian Junior College for Scott Berry.
Yeah.
So he.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
They went out there out west and played in some big deal and beat Oregon State too. Now, isn't Oregon State a perennial World Series caliber team?
Yeah, they were in the top 10. I think they were right at the top 10. But USM has jumped from 20 to 12 to 10.
They're climbing that ladder, aren't
Yeah, but now, conference play starts not this weekend, but the following weekend. But, I imagine that thing's going to be packed out tonight.
they? Yeah.
It'll be packed out next Tuesday when Ole Miss comes to town, probably too.
Who we got for our guest tonight, Dale?
We got Brett Stevens from WTOK, Meridian, Mississippi.
WTOK.
He is the sports director, and
Okay.
he and I got acquainted up at the state championship games in Starkville this year. So we're just going to talk to him a little bit about his experience in Mississippi. How's Mississippi adjust, because he's not from Mississippi.
Okay. All right.
And just see how it goes.
Well, I'll tell you what, let's find out.
Okay.
We're going to take a break to hear from one of our sponsors, and Dale and I'll be back with tonight's guest, Brett Stevens, right after this commercial break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Brett Stevens, welcome to the show.
How are you guys doing?
Well, we're doing great. How's everything in the Meridian area today?
It's been good. I'm actually back at home. My off days are on Tuesday and Wednesday, so just seeing the fam back in Georgia. But the weather's been great in Meridian. It's been a great time, especially for baseball season, just getting to cover some games so far this year. I mean, the weather has been absolutely perfect. I was at a couple of our local area schools this past week, just getting to take in the sun. It's just, America's pastime. I love being outdoors, just catching the game. But it's been a great time recently in Meridian, just getting all the swing of things with these spring sports.
Yeah, we've got a local boy coaching up in that area, Josh Palmer from up at Clarkdale, and I think Clarkdale's winning a lot of games this year, aren't they, Brett?
Clarkdale's, yeah, I have not been there yet, but I have heard that they have had a great season so far. It's really interesting to see the beginnings of some of these high school teams, and just you kind of get the bits and pieces of where they could go in the future with their season, and see ultimately if it pans out. But a lot of these teams that we've been covering in our area have had really strong starts, a lot of firepower on the pitching side of things, but also on the hitting side of things. It's been great to see.
Well, I met you at the state tournament this year. Well, let's get back to where you're from, okay? Just tell us about your growing up. I mean, just where you were raised and where you went to college and how you got to Meridian, Mississippi.
Yeah, so I grew up in metro Atlanta. So basically, when you think of Atlanta, about an hour and a half outside of the main part of the city. Went to a small private Christian high school. I grew up in what's called Gwinnett County, Georgia, like I said, an hour and a half outside of Atlanta. Went to the University of Georgia from 2020 to 2024. So during that first year of COVID, a lot of my classes were online, so I wasn't talking to a lot of people, but doing what I can, obviously staying safe. I graduated in 2024 with my degree in journalism, and this will be important later, my certificate in our sports media program at the University of Georgia. Now, I was debating on whether I wanted to enter the workforce, or I was on track to get my master's in a year on top of that. So after a lot of conversations, a lot of prayer, I just decided I'm going to stay back and get my master's in journalism, and I did as a grad assistant for our sports media program at the University of Georgia. So I got a year of relevant experience working social media for sports broadcasting, the on-air side, the off-air side, all while the university was paying for my degree, and I was able to work a lot of other stuff too. I had hosted a radio show for a couple of years at Georgia. I was the public address announcer for several of the UGA sports teams, including our baseball team, so that was a lot of fun. Stayed back and did that. And then come May of 2025, I was completely done, and really just looking for work. It's a very hard industry, and I bet you guys have a lot of stories of just trying to, get your foot in the door. I think that's the name of the game with any job, but I think especially a job like sports media. It's just really hard. It's very competitive. It's a lot of fun. And I was looking and searching, and I had met my sophomore year of college. Who's now my coworker, Carmen Corley. She is our sports director at WTOK. She does an incredible job at the station. You will be seeing her on Sunday for the NFL or some leagues. She's incredible at what she does. But we worked together a lot in the past, and she just calls me out of the blue in August and says, "Hey, I know this is super random. We haven't talked in a while, but we have an opening for a sports reporter here in Meridian at WTOK. Would you be interested?" And this is amidst guise of me just applying everywhere and anywhere, just trying to get my foot in the door, trying to get some kind of opportunity in sports. And I really felt that this was an answered prayer from the Lord, and I just spent a lot of time with my family talking about it, and we came to the decision that this is for me. This is what the Lord, I believe, wanted me to go. And so I was very fervent and excited, and I said yes. And within, I want to say about 2 weeks of that fall, I went from not having a job to starting the second week of our Football Friday season, which is very popular for our high school football teams, within the span of 2 weeks. And it's just been a crazy transition, a fun roller coaster, I call it, and I've enjoyed it ever since. So I have one football season under my belt, hopefully many more to come. But now we're in our baseball season, and we're transitioning to that and into our basketball season in the summer, which, with college football especially, just transitions into another year of college football and high school football and the crazy world that is sports. But it's been a great 7 months being here in Meridian, and I've loved it ever since I set foot in the Queen City.
So you I guess grew up an SEC fan, basically. You Georgia. Now you were north of Atlanta. Is that where you grew up? Is that where the Braves are located?
Northeast, basically.
Yeah, northeast. The Braves are all there and everything.
Oh yeah.
So when you got the call to come to Mississippi, a lot of people. How do you feel like? And you just tell us how you feel about it, or how other people might have felt about it. Was it did you feel like it was a great opportunity, but you didn't know enough about the state? Are there a lot of negative comments about coming to Mississippi?
Well, here's the thing. I think with any transition, it's difficult. I don't care if you're moving from a city in Georgia to another city in Georgia, like Atlanta to Savannah, or even, like a Jackson to, Biloxi or something like that. Any transition is difficult, but I've always heard great things about just being here in the South. It's just a different type of hospitality. For context, my older brother, he lives in Pittsburgh, and I'll go to visit him, and it's just not the same to me. It's just not, the people obviously are nice, but it's just a different type of intentionality that I've loved living here in the South, and I really don't have any intentions on leaving the Southeast. And, I think the beauty of Mississippi is it is a lot more of that Southern hospitality. And even from the get-go, Dale, and even our brief conversations we had at the state football championships in Starkville, I could just tell, for people talking like you and other people I've met, there's just a love for people here and a love for sports, too, that just kind of intertwines everything we do. And it's really special. And I don't think there's too many places that you can find outside of Mississippi, especially, that you're going to have the people that are looking out for you. Because, yeah, it's a job and it's work, and we're all focused individually, but it is a group effort because we grew up wanting to tell stories, and we grew up, at least, on my side of things, and what I've heard is, when you grow up in the South, sports are king, especially college football is king, and it invigorates everything you do, and it's kind of like a holiday, like in the fall, and just on Friday night lights and everything like that. Your attention is on that, and it's something I've enjoyed, whether playing sports, watching sports growing up. But coming to Mississippi was an incredible decision, and it's again stepping out into something unknown. So obviously you're going to be like, well, what am I going to do with this or that, and how is our show going to run, for example? But it's been incredible. I think the beauty of the Meridian location especially is because we cover those two states. We cover East Mississippi and West Alabama. We're covering the University of Alabama, Dale. We're covering Mississippi State. We're covering Ole Miss. We're covering Southern Miss, 3 professional teams with the Braves and the Pelicans and the Saints. So even if whether my next step is, in the state of Mississippi or beyond, I don't think I'm ever going to be able to cover those amount of teams and those prolific programs that you get to step into. One of the best pieces of advice I've gotten from one of my coworkers once was, you have the same credential as everybody else. it doesn't matter whether you're in a small market or you're working at the owned and operated stations in Los Angeles or New York. You're there for a reason. You're there to tell a story, get the information, and give it to the people. And our avenue is sports, and it's a little bit different, and I think it's really special what we can do just around a common enjoyment of just Saturdays and Fridays, especially with football.
Yeah. I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, it seems like the whole community rallies around Friday night, and
absolutely.
And so you go to a ball game and you see maybe a judge, a lawyer, a doctor, a nurse. I mean, you see all kind of people, and you see the people that work at, say, Burger King, or a restaurant or something like that you run into, or a curb store, and they're there at the game, and everybody's cheering for the same thing. So it kind of brings the community together, and I mean, and especially a winning community where they just But of all the places that you've been in, like a high school in that Meridian area that you're talking about, is there one high school that just stands out more than the others as far as fan support?
Man, that's a great question, Dale. And, I kind of mentioned it a second ago, but the fact we cover two big regions for a station that's, we're not super big, but, Carmen and I, we do a great job. And Carmen, I'll shout her out again. She spearheads a lot of this. Just having been in the area longer than me, she kind of knows, like, hey, this is kind of the environment. This is the vibe we get with these high school teams. I think I relate a lot to the private Christian schools, just because I grew up in a private Christian school, and I kind of know the vibes of the fans, and I know the atmosphere. And, like I said, a little bit smaller with the schools, so you have, I would say, more of a fan appearance and a appreciation for the sports going on. But I think this is an overall theme of Mississippi compared to my experience in Georgia. Mississippi, they love football. They love all types of football, college football, professional football, but high school football especially, Dale. It is different in the Magnolia State, and I've witnessed it firsthand. Lamar is definitely a school that speaks out to me. I've been to a lot of their games, especially because they're close to the station. West Lauderdale is another one that comes to mind personally. They have a really good student section. I would say, too, you mentioned Clarkdale. Clarkdale's a fun school that I've been to. But also, you go to so many different places. It's sometimes hard to think about the different atmospheres and cultures, because every place is different. Every place has a unique history and memories growing up. Because I think for a lot of these areas, the people that live and go to these schools, they probably lived there their whole life. And so it's become kind of their own tradition to go to these high school football games on Friday nights, to see their old alum, to see faculty, to come out on homecoming, to celebrate victories, to encourage the kids just wanting to play football, but maybe even take it to the next level. You never know what's going on with these teams. There's so many storylines, and there's so many interesting facets that I think make my job really cool, is that I can kind of peel back the layers and show the people, hey, this is bigger than the game. This is someone's life. This is hours spent in the classroom. This is hours you don't see practicing on the field. And to see and to realize that, I think that's what drives that fan support, is because they are you. They are the community. It's a little bit less in college where, you'll have a lot of in-state athletes, but you're not having as much as these specific high schools where you're just growing up at. And that's where I think most of the fandom comes into play, because you're out supporting these kids at these games, and you're building this atmosphere and that culture. And it's every week. We talk about it, all the time at the station, but every week is all hands on deck for getting these games and getting these stories. So it's really special. Those are a couple high schools that stand out, but man, I feel like every Friday I'm out there. It's just, it's really a sight to see what the people and the community can bring out.
This is just a comment, and then I'll get to the last question we're going to ask you. But I've noticed that what you mentioned in your conversation just a second ago, that even at a church and at high school sports, if you have a good student body, or you have children, a lot of children in your church, it just seems like you have more adults at those ball games also. I just relate that to me just being around like I was. But my final question to you is, and I kind of prepared you this for yesterday, so I'm not keeping you off guard though. So if I call you up in if I call you up in 10 years, Brett, and say, "Hey, Brett, how you doing? Where you gonna be?"
That's a great question. I feel like it might be hard to answer that, but I'll give a swing at it. Hopefully still keeping up with the sideline view with Dale McKee, of course.
There you go.
But man, I love telling stories, Dale. I believe that's what God put me on this earth to do, and I look up to a lot of people just growing up. I think a lot about Neil Verrett, the great Stuart Scott on Sports Center. I think a lot about Chip Carey, watching the Atlanta Braves growing up. I would love to do something like that, whether it's sports play-by-play, hosting my own sports show, something like that, where I can just interact with people. And I think it's just the main reason why I work in sports is because of people. I've always been going to events, hosting events, seeing people, and I think just I've got so involved in the media side of things just from such an early age. I've done a lot of even stage acting and film acting and voiceover work, and I love telling stories, and I think the intersection of telling stories and people, one of them is sports, and also having played sports growing up, I think that's what I want to ultimately do is continue to tell stories, and we'll see what happens in a decade from now, because we've already seen so many changes in the sports media industry, and that's a whole other conversation, maybe for another time on the show. But yeah, it's definitely exciting to think about what could be next. I would say maybe something with sports broadcasting, play-by-play work, but I got to take advantage of the present, and I think that's the thing about life is you got to make the most of today, and you got to make every moment count, because there's always going to be someone who that you're trying to move forward, and you're trying to continue to be the best version of yourself, and someone's always watching, and especially in an on-air industry, you got to be your best, and that's not just in terms of creating a product on television or media, but that's just being a person. And if I can look 10 years from now and say, what, I grew as a person, I grew more in my faith, I was caring more, I was loving more, then everything else is going to fall into play. And my ultimate goal is, to be a better man, hopefully, be a better husband one day, and everything else will fall into place, because I love what I do, and I love the opportunities I've gotten, even just being here, getting to do stuff like this, which again, been an absolute pleasure just talking to you guys. But yeah, hopefully a decade down the road, we're still selling in the sports media industry, and we're just telling stories, Dale, because that's what we're made to do.
Yeah, well, listen, that I really appreciate that, and Lord's going to leave you where He wants to, and so you just have to go that road with Him, and He may make a U-turn on you, but I know you'll be a success because of your faith and your background, and appreciate.
Well, I appreciate it, Dale. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Well, listen, I told you I'd show up sometime in our little pre-game interview there, and we're out of time. I do want to thank you. We thank you, Brett, so much for being with us and what you brought to the Brouhaha table. We appreciate you sharing your faith in Christ, too. We join you in that as well. So I'm going to ask you to hang on just a second, and we're going to take a break here from one of our sponsors, and Dale and I will be back with tonight's final segment of the Brouhaha right after this commercial break.
Phillips Building Supply in Laurel, your hometown building supply store since 1954. We are locally owned and pride ourselves on helping our customers find exactly what they need. From foundations to roofs to doors and windows, Phillips has it. For tools, hardware, lumber, and plywood, visit Phillips Building Supply.
Welcome back, everybody. Man, that gentleman can talk, Bill.
Yes, sir.
Now, I guess he writes as good as he talks.
Well, I tell you what, the reason I asked him to be on the show was just when I first met him.
Yeah.
I could tell he was a good person.
Yeah.
You could just get those vibes off.
He comes across as being one of
and he was real respectful because he's in his early 20s, and here I'm walking around with silver hair or gray hair. Which
bumping 100.
Yeah. Bumping 100. Yeah, I'm closer to 100 than I am 50. So.
Well, listen, that was a good shot. We enjoyed him.
Yeah.
I got something that's just really interesting to me, and I'm sure you're aware of this, Dale. Do you realize we got some new laws that are being enacted in Mississippi where the state income tax on NIL money, there's going to be none? Are you aware of that?
Well, what about us old folks?
Well, now, we ain't talking about old folks.
Well, I mean, come on now.
We don't get no NIL.
Well, I mean, they started taking Social Security out on me when I was 16 or 17.
Well, yeah.
I mean, what's the deal here?
Were you aware of that? I'm sure you were.
I saw the headlines, yeah.
But you think about that. Ole Miss can give these kids money, and they don't have to pay state taxes on it. That could be, another 5, 8, 10, whatever.
5%.
Yeah, well, for Mississippi, but that could be
They still got to pay federal.
Yeah, but they don't have to pay state, and that's going to. I think on a $5 million deal or $4 million, that's going to be it's going to be a material number.
Well, it's just like we talked back during the Super Bowl. I was reading the other day. Brett, my youngest, lives in San Diego, and he's become a big San Diego Padre baseball fan. And I was asking him. I try to keep up with him so I can have a great conversation with him. I said, I saw where old so and so said he really loved San Diego, wanted to sign there. But he was going to sign with Arizona because he didn't like that tax structure out there in California.
Yeah, I bet not. There's a lot of folks.
Well, no, it was almost like if you signed for $1 million, you were going to end up with about $400,000, which is good. Don't get me wrong.
It ain't as good as it ought to be.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, why is the state getting $600,000? And you're doing the work for them, I mean, it didn't seem very fair.
I agree with you. Every little bit helps, and if I think this is a good thing for the state of Mississippi. It'll help Ole Miss. It'll help with the state and Southern, all the colleges. Can get a player to get maybe $1,500, $100, $2,000, whatever difference it may matter to these kids. And I went around the country and looked and see what states. I said, well, is this really going to be a benefit? And these are the states that don't have state. Income tax. Alaska. I don't think they play much football up there, so we ain't got to worry about them. Florida. So Florida's going to get their share because they got plenty of players. Nevada, that's not a big deal to us. New Hampshire, South Dakota. Tennessee doesn't have a tax. So that's an SEC. So we've got Ole Miss, Florida, Tennessee. Texas doesn't have that. But those are the only ones in the SEC.
I think Arkansas has joined. I don't know if you mentioned them or not.
Well, they're not on the list.
Yeah, but I saw something about the same article, and I saw where Arkansas. I remember Coach Ron Polk when he was coaching baseball at Mississippi State. He was fussing about the Mississippi. In Georgia, they took the lottery money and put it in a special fund. So if you finished high school, you could go to college, tuition. They'd pay your tuition.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so all the baseball players that were going to Georgia, they didn't have to give them any. They gave them a little scholarship money too. And those guys were in Mississippi. Will Clark, I was told, when he was playing at Mississippi State in the 80s, he was only on 60% scholarship. He wasn't on 100%. And in Georgia, those guys were getting tuition and all that paid. And then they're getting a little scholarship money for like food, books, and maybe a dorm room, So, it's kind of been an imbalance. The state kind of has to buy in on this sports stuff. And we are a crazy state. We love sports, Locally, we probably love them. I mean, we're all concerned about who's going to be the next football coach, but nobody's worried
Football
about
coach where?
We're at Wayne County.
Oh, Wayne County. Were they looking for a coach in Wayne County?
But they're not worried about any other position. Who's going to teach them English? We'll put Marshall up there.
Well, we done seen about all we can see around here, boys. But anyway, Dale, you know what? It's come to that time. We're out of time.
Oh, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Listen, folks, we appreciate y'all listening in with us and glad you're here. Want to remind you that you can keep up with us, listen to our shows that are recorded on our YouTube channel at Brouhaha, and we post some articles along the way that we might get to discuss sometime on our Facebook page at Brouhaha. But for now, it is time to say goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, Dale.
Goodbye, folks, and we'll see you next week for more of the Brouhaha. Get us out of here, Jamie.
You've been listening to the Brouhaha with Del McKee and Marshall Wood. Heard Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. on WABO. For more of the Brouhaha, follow us during the week on Facebook and WABO.